TRA began as Trust Research Advisory. That was the original name, Trust Research Advisory. And our objective was to try and understand this basic emotion called trust. We wanted to understand what is it that is necessary for two brands to be seen alike and communicate alike. We spent 3 years with several hundreds of communication experts, psychologists and sociologists to try and gauge better as to what trust is made up of, because trust is made up of all these 3 streams. And finally, what emerged was a 100 attribute matrix, which allowed us to see trust better. So it's like contributions or components of a particular, any product. So you know what goes into a good dish, you know how much of it goes in, so we knew that, we understood that. Once we had this basic matrix, which today is now being culled down to 61 different attributes. So when my colleague Jovita was talking about trust, we understand it to have details of 61 different attributes, 10 different brand behaviors and 3 different foundations. So it is that intricate. So if you are to make a very good soup or chow mein or any drink or even a cocktail, which I prefer, you would know exactly what ingredient has to go in it, how much. Only then can you make a perfect, culinary outcome. It's not easy. Similarly, when you're talking about something as complex as trust, it is extremely essential for us to understand trust in its most intricate manner. So when we try and look at trust, we understand it from a detail of 61 different aspects. What are these different aspects? It's not about size of a company, size of a brand. It's not how many people that the brands employ. It's not how many offices. It's not who owns it. But it is aspects that are far more intangible in nature. For example, it'll have things like, is the brand caring? Is the brand competent? Is the brand empathetic? Does it have empathy? TRA believes from the very beginning that it is these intangibles that actually make up the tangibles of a brand. So if you have caring, if you have empathy, if you have competence, if you have all the other things that make up trust, you will get business. You will get sales. More and more people will join you. All the other tangibles are a resultant of the intangibles. So we focus completely and only on the intangibles. We are a brand data insights company. What does that imply? This is called syndicated research. So we go through the syndicated research. We do research on our parameters of trust. We have 2 studies in a year. One is of trust, the other is of attractiveness. We do both these studies and get out data which brands can use in order to communicate better and act better. 2 things that we want the brand to do. Why do we want the brand to act or communicate better? What is the reason? Brands represent opportunities. Every time a brand is interacting with the world, whether new, whether old, whether it's about to happen, it is representative of a great idea. That idea can work or not work depending on many things. One is the brand idea may not be good. It may not find the fervor, flavor with consumers and other people that it interacts with, which is fair. The brand might fail as a resultant of that. But that's about 20-30% of the times. The balance 70-80% of the times, the brand fails because of a lack of good communication. The brand exactly knows what's to be done. It has a great product, but it doesn't communicate well. I don't know how many of you know of brands such as this. Long time ago, when I was young actually, which is a long time ago actually, I know of a brand known as Ceasefire. Have you ever heard of a Ceasefire brand, which is a fire extinguisher, home-based fire extinguisher, small bottled Ceasefire it used to be called, very popular. It was the leading fire extinguishing brand. I remember I was watching a cricket match and they were at that particular time splurging, the biggest ad campaign ever, on bringing in household kitchenware goods which would keep airtight ceilings, so to speak, where Indian foods kind of get perished very quickly when it's not kept in airtight. So they had this system where you could press a button, and press button meaning there would be on top of the lid, there would be a button, and it'll remove all the air, vacuum in a second. 100 crores they spent on it. Big money at that point. Ceasefire shut down. All their money went here. Completely gone. This is not the only case where a brand makes a wrong decision and therefore kind of moves into a wrong area. So brands that communicate, it was a great product. I mean, today Tupperware tries to be some of that, and it's a globally well-renowned multi-billion-dollar brand. But nonetheless, such problems exist in brands all over. So how do brands communicate? Brands largely communicate on the basis of a creative person or creative idea. That means they would go to an ad agency. An ad agency may be data-based or non-data-based. If it's a data-based ad agency, it will go and do some kind of a research on what should be stated about the brand, and will do some kind of a research after the brand has been, just before it's communicated, after the creative idea has been made, to see whether it works or not. And both these put together, you render something well. How many of you think that all the insurance ad looks the same? How many of you think there is an ad nowadays that says ki, मैं रिश्ते बनाऊंगा, मैं ये करूंगा, and he says I'll run away. I think it's some quoted bank. The new band is actually making fun of those old banks because everybody says relationships. So it has become that boring. It's so easy to call it relationships, but nobody is willing to look it in the eye as to what is data that's going to make a relevance to you. When we look at what is relationships, it's an intangible. Can every bank use it? No. How should you use a particular messaging? If the people are absorbing that messaging. There are many cases wherein a brand thinks that, for example, there are Tata, he may say that, the Tata brand may say that it's a very, very, let's say, Indian brand. Whereas people may view it as a multinational brand. There may be a brand like Reliance, which may see itself as an innovative brand. People may see it as an old brand. What you communicate about a brand does not mean that that's what it will become understood as. It is the experiences of the consumers, the people who are interacting with the brand, that will decide what the brand is. They are the true brand owners. They decide what the brand is. If that is the case, then what is the person who's actually got the ownership, the legal ownership of the brand? What is their role? They are merely custodians, like a mother is to the child. The mother is not the owner of the child, is she? She cannot say, I own you. She's just known. She's a custodian. I have to take care of the child. So the person who's a legal owner of a brand is merely a custodian of the brand, to make sure that the brand is happy, continues, grows. And in the process, the true owners are the ones who consume it, the ones who interact with it. They will decide whether or not a brand should be seen as one or not. That is the key behind all brands. So therefore, this entire study, the rigmarole, and therefore the syndicated research. Syndicated means that we go into our methodology. Two things that we've got. Today we're going to talk about trust, but we do trust every beginning of the year. Every mid of the year, we do attractiveness. Earlier people would ask us, how can you measure trust? Come on. Today it's a standard practice. Over 150 to 200 brands use our matrix. They use it in their brand communication. They actually find out how they should communicate better. Big brands. Name the top 5 on this list would be taking our data for that. Similarly, the second part of it, how do you measure attractiveness? I find something attractive, the other person doesn't find something attractive. But we have a matrix by which we can measure attractiveness. So these two things put together give us what is known as buying propensity. So TRA measures buying propensity, people's keenness to buy. The most important thing in any brand. If I can measure keenness to buy, that means my business, the reason for my existing as a business is complete. I don't need to do anything, right? If I can ensure that people buy me, that's why I exist. And that can be done through intangibles. So ladies and gentlemen, this particular research this is the 7th in the series. We started in 11, unbroken, we've had 7 issues of it, and this is the 7th report 2017. I'll just tell you a brief on how it was happening. We have already had this matrix. We had a very nice test of it, pilot of it. It was running very well in strategy. On July of October, I called our head of research into the room and we said, you know, if we can do it for one brand, why can't we do it for the entire set of brands? Why can't we measure the trust of every brand? And there we called upon India's most reputed statistical institute called Indian Statistical Institute. We called them to partner us and they gracefully partnered with us. They are the reason that we exist today because they have actually given us the formula by which we can measure trust. We knew what trust was made of, but to measure trust was difficult. So they helped us do that. They told us how to go into the sampling so that it is error-free. After all, if you're a brand trust report, you should be trusted. So how do you make it error-free? Error will cause mistrust in the data. And finally, we came up with the first report in January of 2011. On that year, we were able to continue from that year into till date, where we've got close to 1,000 brands listed. I'll just go into some findings, ladies and gentlemen, then we can go into some question and answer if you have any specific queries. You know, just before that, I want to touch upon why trust is important, why trust is so important. And trust is the basis of all transaction. How many times have you heard this? I don't trust that man or woman. Happens very often because we are all into relationships, right? We don't trust men or women depending on their actions, whatever they are saying and whatever they are doing. The second aspect, the first is this, the second aspect is it's a framework of expectancy. What does that mean? I expect something, will I get back that in return? If I get back that expectancy, chances are my trust will increase. If I don't get back that expectancy, the trust will decrease. Who does it depend on? It depends not on the brand, it depends on my expectancy. It depends on me. Therefore, those hundreds of people and thousands of people that we actually interview decide what the trust will be. I cannot decide what my trust will be. I'm sure you've gone out and seen ads. Most trusted bank, most trusted digital wallet, most trusted soap, most trusted shampoo, most trusted pet food. Everything is most trusted. Everybody claims it. What is the big deal? The minute you overstate it, you know, you go to, if there's let's say two families are trying to meet for a betrothal of the children. A boy wants to get married to a girl, and therefore they want to, kind of have, he first goes and tells the girl, the boy, trust me. What will happen? All the trust will go out of the window. Because you cannot ask for trust. You have to do things around which will make you trust, from action to communication to the way you actually behave, to your body language, to everything else. One wrong look and the trust will go out of the window. So trust is a framework of expectancy and therefore it depends completely on the person who's going to give the trust. Remember that. And if you understand the brand trust matrix well, you will have great trusted relationships with humans, your own people. Child, parent, spouse, doesn't matter. Sorry, excuse me. So one more thing that I wanted to just touch upon trust. If you have trust, then anything can happen, which means business can happen, relationships can happen, governance can happen, policing can happen. No trust, nothing will happen. It's a future-focused contract. What does it mean? I will get nothing in return, but I will give you my trust. Future-focused. Give it to me in return. A person taking up a job. He's taking up the job by saying that I hope you will give me enough value. The job is being given to him, considering that him or her, I hope you will give enough value. Future-focused. Without this, there could be no progress at all. Civilization have been built upon trust, and therefore businesses where every transaction matters the most, trust is the most important. Because the lack of trust or the fall of trust, as some brands like we've faced, how many people would know of cases in the last 1 year alone, at least 3 or 4 big brands which have lost trust or are likely to lose trust because of situations. One small instance, either a government changes a rule like demonetization, or an ex-chairman fights a chairman, can happen, right? Or some noodle company goes into some other discussion with the government on various issues. Or many other cases, a car company has to have a pullback. So many things. Or it wrongly claims that it is using data for fudging data. So these are all trust-based issues. So there are several things. So therefore, trust is the most important thing in transactions. Now let's come to what's happening in the lists this time. We researched for over 18,000 hours. Why so many hours? Each interview takes close to 1.5 hours or more. We have to sit with consumer influencers, over 2,500 people, and not all of them interviews are approved, so we have to do over 5,000 interviews, 50% rejection rate. 5,000 interviews with 1.5 hours each approximately comes to that, with some rejections as well. And plus processing of that data and everything else, put to 18,000 hours of fieldwork, 3 months, over 450 people continuously working between October, November and December in the field. Post that processing, we have then culled out from this, each person gives responses of 183 brand names. How is that? 61 components of trust. We will ask questions and they will repeat back 3 brands for each of the components of trust. So if I were to ask which brand is competent, can you name 3 brands that are competent? You will give me 3 brand names in return. So similarly, 61 different components will be asked to you, and plus there are the total number of questions in the questionnaire are 425. So it takes a long time. You know, demographics, which brands do you use, which brands do you like, what do you read, what don't you read, all that. You know, do you own a motorbike or this, that, and the other. So we ask them all those questions. And this forms the basis of the data we provide our clientele. So this is the data insights that we provide. Finally, we can tell them on 61 different components, we can tell them what your brand is like and what the other one's brand is like. If I were to ask you just before the Tata Mistry imbroglio, if you were to ask before and after, is Tata more trusted now or later? Very few studies could give you that. We could give you that data. And today we will reveal some of that as well. So let's look at the data. Sorry. Data itself. I will first talk about the top 20. And in the top 20, then we can look at other things, okay? India's leading brand, India's most trusted brand is Samsung, the consumer electronics company. It was at 17th position last time. 18th position last time. It has a 17 rank climb and has come to this. Earlier to this, it was on 71st rank, 2015. It has been in #1 rank before this as well in 2014. So it has a rank which is a brand which has come in, gone out, checkered background, it's been there and out. The second and third brands are Sony and LG. They are at the same rank as they were last year. So they were at second and third. The fourth ranked is a very significant movement because it is for the first time in 7 years that it has come in the top 5, is Apple. The personal technology brand called Apple. You know, we've had multiple city conferences as we are going to do now as well. We're going to do Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore. And when we find out, when we ask people, you know, what? Apple trusted so far away, it's such a wide after brand world over. Then I would say, okay, how many of you own an Apple phone? The number of hands would go up as 2 or 3 or 1. So to be trusted, it is also important to be consumed. You don't consume at all. There are brands like that you will run. I mean, there are brands like maybe a BMW, maybe a Lamborghini, which I will not consume, but I may trust it. But the more consumable brands are important for them to be in way. Some interaction helps, some engagement helps. So Apple as a brand is gaining prominence in India is what it shows. The 5th ranked brand is Tata. Also maintains last year's position. You know, I spoke about this in October last, after the Tata Mistry talk, and if you see the media reports from what I've said, I have said forever that there is a very good chance that Tata will lose trust. Well, I'm wrong. It did. And I'm asked the question, why? Why didn't it lose trust? There are several reasons, and I can very fairly now put myself in the wrong and correct it. 2 or 3 reasons for it. One is the legacy of Tata's trust. 150 years of a brand which has stayed in the country, and Tata is, if you ask me, the most stable in trust brand. It has never gone out of the top 5. Every other brand has moved in and moved out. Just to read out the list, I'm reading out just from 2011 to 15, the ranks of Tata. It is 2, 2, 5, 3, 4, 5, 5. It's never touched the pinnacle, number 1. But it has been there from 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way. But it's never gone beyond 5. Last 2 years, it's been at number 5. So first is, it is an extremely stable brand. And this is called what we term internally as residual trust. What is residual trust? You do a good thing. Nokia has a lot of residual trust. So, 2011, 12 and 13, Nokia came in first rank. And 14, it was out, it was sold to Microsoft. Microsoft, after it sold, it still came in our list. So in 2014, it was 5th, then again 5th and 15, then it was 4th. Everybody questioned us. Why should a brand be there when it is not even available? How many of you know somebody who owns a Nokia phone? I'm sure hands will go up. Don't have to. Everybody will know. My aunt, my uncle, if somebody will have something. You may not buy it, but it's there. So this year, therefore Tata comes like that. It comes with a lot of residual trust. This year, of course, Nokia is also back, and I'll tell you what the reasons are. The second reason behind Tata's extreme amount of trust is the fact that the action taken. What did I say? Trust is a framework of expectations. My expectations were that they will take in a family member to be the chairperson. Everybody was touting one name. We all know that name. But no. He chose, Ratan Tata first of all came in, 3 months on the helm, chose a head who was completely a rank outsider, a Tata Group fellow, but a rank outsider, N Chandramouli, known for his performance, came and who was built in a brand from 5,000 crores to 54,000 crores. So his professionalism was well known, his ability to change a business was well known, and his only thing was, can he manage such a big conglomerate? And the minute he did that, have you seen even media reports dying completely? Nobody talks about it anymore. N Chandramouli came in as a solution to the big problem that Tata Mystery problem was. Very, very intelligent, very, very well thought through move. And like I said, I'm happy to be corrected that Tata has not lost trust. I'm really happy because it takes a lot of years to build the trust, because whether I like it or not, my life impinges on Tata every day. Either I will be passing a Tata car, or some food which I don't even know of will be using a Tata product, either sampan or salt, or it will be Tata chemicals that is being impacting some of my plastics that I'm making or using, one of the two. So those are things that happen in Tata's case. And number 6 is the four-wheeler brand which has been leading the four-wheeler category for a long time, which is Honda, four-wheeler category, followed by Maruti Suzuki. Maruti Suzuki has actually climbed by 4 ranks. It was 11th last year, it is 7th this year, and has come into this area. Dell is the next 8th ranked, which was the same rank as last year, so no change, stays there. Lenovo makes a significant move ahead, 18 ranks above, and goes to 9th position, and Bajaj is 10th. There is a long list. The first page of your summary, executive summary, will show you what that list is. But I'll tell you what the significant findings of the top 20 are. I already talked about Apple, which makes it to the top 5, which is a significant finding. The second most significant finding is Baba Ramdev. Patanjali comes in at 15th rank, 1-5. It is a climb of 158 ranks. It was at 173 last time. 1 year before it was at 576. Before that it was not there, before that it was not there, before that it was not there. 11, 12, 13 it was not there, 14, 15, 16 it's been there. 15, 16, 17 it's been there. Well, why? What is the case? And what is the case over here in terms of Patanjali? And if you try to observe trust, Do I trust Baba Ramdev? Question mark. I will not answer. There will be a lot of controversy. Let's not do that. But do I trust Patanjali? Same thing. Actually, I can say it very clearly, I don't. But do I trust his product? I have tried one or two products by chance. I went on a trip one time and I forgot my toothpaste. I usually use the Ayurvedic equivalent called Himalayas toothpaste, very similar in color, taste and everything else. But I was offered this, I just took a bit of it, apprehensive about what goes into your mouth. Love the taste, love everything, my toothpaste have changed. I am not a believer of the man, the brand ambassador. I am not a believer of the brand, Patanjali, but I have become a product believer. I know hundreds of people like that who have become product believers. They don't believe in the brand, they don't believe in this, but they have become believers in the product. There is no better strategy than a product strategy. Forget your brand, forget the communication, forget who you want people think you to be. Let your product behave that. There are some, I'm sure many of you will shake your heads if you have heard of their aloe vera face wash. Many of you would have heard it somewhere. Oh, aloe vera, don't worry, use it. I've never used it, but I'm saying it would completely click on. There are some believers like that. They don't believe in the man, the brand ambassador, they don't believe in the brand itself, but they believe in that product. So therefore, this is a brand to look out for. Imagine the day, and look at it from a pure scientific point of view, brand science point of view. Imagine the day when people become a little bit more believers of either the brand or the brand ambassador. You'll suddenly see a change. I still don't know what will happen to the jeans. I still don't know whether I will buy the jeans ever and wear it or not, but this is the way that it's moving on. Okay. The second brand to look out for in this particular case is Reliance Jio. And Reliance Jio is the first time entrant. Naturally, it only started last year. It's a first time entrant and it has come into 19th position in the first year itself. Now, everybody and their cousin brother I know seems to have a Reliance card. It's available free. So nowadays I get a phone from my friend. Very often I only know after it's a strange number, phone call comes in. I pick up the phone thinking it must be some important business. But my friend replies from the other side. I say, hey, what have you done? Change your number. He said, no, ये मेरा दूसरा phone है, Jio वाला. So now everybody has a दूसरा वाला Jio phone. I don't know what will happen once the payment begins to be asked from them. So we don't know about that. But these are two significant brands to look out for. So just let's look at a few more things that are happening in the top 10 list. From the top 10 of last year, 4 brands have exited. And what are those? The first is Samsung Mobiles. Number 1 last year fell down to 155 this year. Plummeted down. Why is that? Guess is open. Yeah. Before every flight, we get announcements nowadays. So it's still continuing. It was not an issue in India at all. I hope you knew that. In India, the brand was not even, that particular product was not even launched. It was all in America and the other Koreas and the Japans of the world where they replaced the phone. But now it has spread so much that it became a hazard. And it becomes synonymous with hazard, the phone. But soon after, I think this is a temporary phase and they will probably recover. So that's one brand that has gone out. The second brand that has gone out is Nokia. As I said to you last time, it was at 5th and it's gone to 14th this time. So that's gone out. Godrej is down to 23rd this time. It was in top 10. And ICICI Bank was in top 10. It has gone to 47th rank. Just a bit trivia. There are totally what we call 40 super categories, like food and beverage, FMCG and the like. And there are 292 categories, like biscuits and breads and all that. You understand that difference between super category. It's the mother category and the subcategory. We don't like to call anything sub, therefore we don't call it like that, super category. The leading categories with the largest number of brands, where 38% of the brands reside, is in 3 categories. Food and beverage has 161 brands. Why? Because you want to trust what you eat. You want to trust what you drink. You don't want to not trust it. If you don't, that's the end of it. So people place a lot of faith in what they eat and drink. Apply. FMCG, next. That has 128 brands. And auto, what I drive, what I ride on, has another 73 brands. Totally put together, 37 plus